In the world of technology, two names stand out among the rest: Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. They were pioneers, visionaries, and rivals who shaped the modern digital era. This is the story of their complicated relationship, full of admiration, fierce competition, and occasional clashes. Join us as we delve into the lives of these extraordinary men. Bill Gates, a young computer enthusiast, dropped out of Harvard to found Microsoft. Meanwhile, Steve Jobs, a creative genius, was busy building Apple in his parents' garage. Fate brought Gates and Jobs together at the Homebrew Computer Club, a gathering of computer hobbyists.
What Steve's done is quite phenomenal. If you look back to 1977, that Apple II computer, the idea that it would be a mass market machine, the bet that was made there by Apple uniquely, there were other people with products, but the idea that this could be an incredible, empowering phenomena, Apple pursued that dream.
But the biggest thing was Bill was really focused on software before almost anybody else had a clue that it was really the software.
Jobs unveiled the Macintosh, a revolutionary personal computer that changed the industry forever. Microsoft's Windows operating system gained popularity, making it a dominant force in the market.
We continued to do Macintosh software, and Excel, which Steve and I introduced together in New York City. That was kind of a fun event. That went on and did very well. But then, Apple just wasn't differentiating itself well enough from the higher volume platform.
Apple was in very serious trouble, and what was really clear was that if the game was a zero-sum game where for Apple to win, Microsoft had to lose, then Apple was going to lose. But that's a lot of people's heads were still in that place.
Why was?
Jobs felt betrayed when Microsoft released Windows, which he believed copied Apple's graphical user interface.
Is that Microsoft wasn't in the applications business then. They took a big bet on the Mac because this is how they got into the apps business. I mean, Lotus dominated the apps business on the PC back then.
Right, we had done just Multiplan, which was a hit on the Apple II. And then Mitch did an incredible job betting on the IBM PC, and 123 came in and ruled that part of the business. So the question was, what was the next paradigm shift that would allow for an entry? WordPerfect, we had Word, but WordPerfect was by far the strongest in word processing, DBase, and database.
And Word was that was a kind of a DOS.
Apple was struggling, and Jobs sought help from his old rival, Gates.
At Apple, and even in the customer base, because Apple had invented a lot of this stuff, and Microsoft was being successful, and Apple wasn't, and there was jealousy and this and that. There was just a lot of reasons for it that don't matter. But the net result of it was there were too many people at Apple and in the Apple ecosystem playing the game of, for Apple to win, Microsoft has to lose. And it was clear that you didn't have to play that game, because Apple wasn't going to beat Microsoft. Apple didn't have to beat Microsoft. Apple had to remember who Apple was, because it had forgotten who Apple was. And so to me, it was pretty essential to break that paradigm. And it was also important that Microsoft was the biggest software developer outside of Apple developing for the Mac. And so it was just crazy what was happening at that time. And Apple was very weak. And so I called Bill up and we tried to patch things up.
Yeah, and since that time, we've had a team that's fairly dedicated to doing the Mac applications, and they've always been treated kind of in a unique way so that they can have a pretty special relationship with Apple. And that's worked out very well. In fact, every couple years or so, there's been something new that we've been able to do on the Mac, and
we have
it's a great business for us.
And it's actually, the relationship between the Mac development team at Microsoft and Apple is a great relationship.
Jobs tragically passed away in 2011, leaving behind a legacy that shaped Apple and the world.
Era of setting this up as a competition between Apple and Microsoft is over as far as I'm concerned. This is about getting Apple healthy, and this is about Apple being able to make incredibly great contributions to the industry to get healthy and prosper again.
Steve gave a speech once, which is one of my favorites, where he talked about, in a certain sense, we build the products that we want to use ourselves. And so he's really pursued that with incredible taste and elegance that has had a huge impact on the industry. And his ability to always come around and figure out where that next bet should be has been phenomenal. Apple literally was failing when Steve went back and reinfused the innovation and risk-taking that have been phenomenal. So the industry's benefited immensely from his work. We've both been lucky to be part of it, but I'd say he's contributed as much as anyone.
The influence of Gates and Jobs continues to resonate in the technology world today. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, two remarkable individuals whose paths intersected, leading to a complex relationship of admiration, rivalry, and collaboration. Their impact on the technology industry and the world will never be forgotten. In a number of public statements following Steve Jobs' death in 2011, Bill Gates expressed his thoughts and reflections on Jobs' life and legacy. Here are some statements made by Bill Gates during the time that are factual. In an interview with ABC News, Bill Gates said, "The world rarely sees someone who has had the profound impact Steve has had, the effects of which will be felt for many generations to come." Gates also mentioned, "For those of us lucky enough to get to work with him, it has been an insanely great honor." In a tribute post on his personal blog, Gates wrote, "The world has lost a visionary, and there may be no greater tribute to Steve's success than the fact that much of the world learned of his passing, on a device he invented." During an interview with the Wall Street Journal, Gates talked about Jobs' intense focus on design, and his ability to bring together art and technology. He said, "He really, deeply understood that design really counts." In a BBC interview, Gates mentioned, he, Jobs, brought his unique skills and mindset to Apple, and his impact on technology was beyond measure. These statements reflect Bill Gates' admiration for Steve Jobs' contributions to the technology industry, and his recognition of Jobs' unique abilities and influence.